Film scanning, the art of making analog photos shareable in the digital world. Well, it's not really an art. It's more of a tedious task we analog photographers have to do if we want to share those precious moments we've captured in the digital age. And if you want to make this task less tedious, the right gear definitely helps. But what is the right gear? There are many different ways to scan your film. The most popular are probably to use a flatbed scanner or a digital camera, which is exactly how I do it, with a digital camera and a macro lens. If you are a serious photographer, you probably already have a digital camera and maybe also a macro lens. That's why this is probably the most cost-effective way to get into film scanning. For the camera, virtually any camera will do. I use my trusty little Canon M50. And for the macro lens, you also need no fancy 2:1 macro or anything like that. A normal 1:1 macro is all you need. I use a 60mm f2.8 macro from TD Artisan, which only costs around 200 euros. You also need a tripod or a copy stand. The good thing is all the expensive stuff you probably already have. Now let's talk about the things you most likely won't have. The first thing is a light source. I recently bought a Cinestill CS Lite, but before I was using my phone, which was a lot slower. And the second thing is a film carrier. This is a little fixture that lets you slide the film through and holds it perfectly flat. You can either buy one or make your own if you have a 3D printer or know a friend who has one. I've designed this little film carrier to be as easy to make as it is useful. That's why it consists only of two identical halves that get glued together and a base plate that comes in different sizes and also one that perfectly fits the CS Lite. If you want to support me and make your own, you can get the files through the link in the description. To set up all of this, it's really easy. Just put up your tripod with your camera facing straight down and the light source and film carrier underneath. The most critical thing is to make sure that the camera and film carrier are parallel to each other. I checked that with the water level on my phone. And make sure that the negative fills out most of the image in camera to get the highest resolution. For camera settings, I just look to get an even exposure. I set my ISO to the lowest it goes and the aperture to f5.6 or f8 to get the most amount of sharpness out of my lens. I also use a 2-second timer to avoid any shake that comes from pressing the shutter. Now comes the easiest part. Feed in the negative and advance to the first frame. Also, it's always faster if your film isn't already cut. Then I set my focus and I'm ready to start scanning. Now just take a photo of every frame, and I also sometimes check my focus in between to make sure that I didn't accidentally move my focus. Now let's head into Lightroom and convert our scans into positives. This will also work with any other editing program. You can also use a Lightroom plugin called Negative Lab Pro, which makes the process easier and faster. But I'm going to show you the manual way of converting them. So first let's import all of them into Lightroom. Then we head to the editing tab and first of all crop our images to the right size. Since these are black and white photos, I'm going to change the photo to black and white. Now let's go to the tone curve and invert it. This will transform your negative into a positive. I then take the right point of the tone curve and slide it to the beginning of the blacks that are seen in the graph. This will be our baseline to edit each photo off of. Now select all your photos and then synchronize them. Now you can adjust the black and white point for each individual photo. Some of my photos you see here are really underexposed. That's caused by some shutter speed issues I had with my Rebel 35. Hopefully your photos are better exposed. You can now edit every photo like you would normally, but keep in mind that most of the settings are reversed. Like for example, if you want to darken the highlights, you would need to do what normally would be lifting up the shadows. Just export your photos like normal when you're done editing and you will have your finished positives. Now you can also cut your negatives to store them. that's it for this video. I hope you learned something from it, and if you liked it, please hit the like button. If you want to be notified for future videos, consider subscribing. I also made a newsletter. I write there about all things photography and all the other things I do. If this interests you, there's a link in the description. And just to remind you, there's also a link for the film camera if you want one. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!